Cinderella. Once upon a time, in a small kingdom nestled between rolling hills, there lived a kind and gentle girl named Cinderella. She was the daughter of a wealthy merchant, but her life had not always been easy. When she was a little girl, her mother passed away, leaving her with a broken heart and her father in deep sorrow. Her father, hoping to give Cinderella a maternal figure, eventually remarried a woman with two daughters of her own. Sadly, this stepmother was cold and unkind, and her daughters, Anastasia and Drizella, were no better. Soon after the marriage, Cinderella's father also passed away, and her stepmother's true nature began to show. Cinderella was forced to live as a servant in her own home, cleaning, cooking, and doing all the chores while her stepsisters idly sat by. Day by day, her beautiful clothes were replaced by ragged garments, and she was given a small attic room to sleep in. Despite her hardships, Cinderella remained kind, hopeful, and always treated others with respect. Her only companions were the mice and birds that lived in and around the house. She cared for them, fed them crumbs, and even sewed little clothes for them. These small creatures in turn adored her and helped her however they could, often making her smile in times of sorrow. One day, the kingdom was abuzz with exciting news. The king had announced that there would be a grand ball at the palace in honor of the prince's return. Every eligible young lady in the land was invited, for the prince was seeking a bride. Cinderella's heart leapt with joy at the thought of attending the ball. She dreamed of wearing a beautiful gown and dancing in the magnificent halls of the palace. Her stepmother, however, had other plans. On the day of the ball, her stepmother and stepsisters prepared themselves in lavish gowns, eager to catch the prince's eye. They mocked Cinderella when she asked if she could go too. "You?" they sneered. "Look at you. You're covered in dust and dressed in rags. The prince would never want to dance with a girl like you." Cinderella's heart sank, but she did not give up hope. She ran to her room and found an old dress that had once belonged to her mother. With the help of her animal friends, she worked tirelessly to repair and alter the dress. By the time evening came, the dress was beautiful, adorned with ribbons and beads. Cinderella beamed with pride. She felt a glimmer of hope that she might go to the ball after all. But as she descended the stairs, her stepsisters saw her and immediately recognized the gown. "That's our mother's dress," they cried. In a fit of jealousy, they tore the dress to pieces, leaving Cinderella in tatters. Her stepmother said nothing, only watched with cold indifference as Cinderella's dreams crumbled before her eyes. Heartbroken, Cinderella fled to the garden, tears streaming down her face. She sat beneath an old willow tree, weeping for the life she once had and the future she feared she would never see. "I only wanted to go to the ball," she sobbed, "to feel like myself again, just for one night." Suddenly, a soft glow surrounded her, and a voice spoke. "Why are you crying, my dear?" Startled, Cinderella looked up to see an elderly woman with a kind face standing before her. She held a sparkling wand in her hand. "Who are you?" Cinderella asked. "I am your fairy godmother," the woman replied with a smile. "And tonight, my dear, you shall go to the ball." With a wave of her wand, the fairy godmother transformed a nearby pumpkin into a gleaming golden carriage. She turned 6 mice into fine horses, a rat into a stately coachman, and lizards into footmen. Finally, with another wave, Cinderella's tattered dress was transformed into a magnificent gown of shimmering silk, and on her feet appeared delicate glass slippers that sparkled in the moonlight. "Now, off you go," the fairy godmother said. "But remember, The magic will only last until midnight. At the stroke of 12, everything will return to its original form. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Cinderella thanked her fairy godmother and climbed into the carriage. As it raced towards the palace, she could hardly believe her good fortune. When Cinderella arrived at the ball, everyone turned to look at her, enchanted by her beauty and grace. Even her stepmother and stepsisters, who did not recognize her in her new gown, gazed at her in awe. The prince, captivated by her charm, immediately asked her to dance, and Cinderella, her heart fluttering with joy, accepted. They danced together for hours, laughing and talking as though they had known each other forever. The prince could not take his eyes off her, and Cinderella, for the first time in years, felt truly happy. But as the night wore on, Cinderella remembered her fairy godmother's warning. The clock began to strike midnight. In a panic, Cinderella pulled away from the prince and fled the ballroom, running down the grand staircase as fast as her feet would carry her. In her haste, she lost one of her glass slippers, but she did not stop to retrieve it. By the time the clock finished striking 12, she was back in her ragged clothes, standing in the middle of the dark street. The carriage, horses, and footmen had all disappeared. The next morning, the kingdom was buzzing with the news of the mysterious girl who had captured the prince's heart. The prince, determined to find her, sent his servants to search the land with the glass slipper she had left behind. He declared that whoever's foot fit the slipper would be his bride. When the prince's men arrived at Cinderella's house, her stepsisters eagerly tried on the slipper, but it was too small for both of them. Just as they were about to leave, Cinderella appeared. "May I try?" she asked softly. Her stepmother and stepsisters laughed, but the prince's men allowed her to try. To everyone's amazement, the slipper fit perfectly. The prince, who had accompanied his men, recognized her at once. Overjoyed, he asked for her hand in marriage, and Cinderella, her heart full of happiness, agreed. Soon after, they were married in a grand ceremony, and Cinderella's kindness and grace shone throughout the land. She forgave her stepmother and stepsisters, and though they were never close, they learned to respect her. Cinderella and the prince lived happily ever after, ruling the kingdom with wisdom and compassion. That and her dreams of happiness had finally come true. Thank you for listening. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to be notified about new videos.